Hi, welcome to the field report for September 8th, 2016. This is going to be a really short report. We've been following this the last 24 hours. I actually didn't get much sleep last night when I followed up with this report on the asteroid. And you're wondering why I'm going on and on about the space weather report, but this is the first time I've really seen some real activity. And the more, it's like a rabbit hole. Once you start really digging your heels back into this, especially because I've been off for a while, it's really frustrating for me because, I don't know where I left off with some of this a couple of months ago, but we had been following it on a regular basis. But there was a time where it was kind of, just slowing down, and maybe, just because of the summer, but the heat was noticeably different this year. And when we track space weather, we know that the space weather directly affects the weather on Earth. So, that's an easy correlation you can make with these weather reports. But you almost have to pay attention to space weather because in some cases it can help us better understand what's in front of us. And when I heard about the sun diving comet and then the filament and the CME over the last 24 hours, and then I saw BP Earthwatch report, and then followed up with Thor news and some other news reports that I haven't even touched yet. Here are the concerns that that affect us. The air quality, that being first and foremost, your O2 levels, people who already have asthma and difficulty breathing. This is especially concerning. It's going to affect people differently, of course. And I'm going to have to go into a little bit more detail in another report, but let me just see if I can cover some of it without having to do that. There are obviously, when you have this kind of asteroid that just passes Earth over in the course of just the last 24 hours, it brings space debris. And usually when you see an asteroid, there's other things coming with it. It's not just one asteroid, there's other things. So we noticed that report from Thor News about the sun diving comet. So obviously there's things coming into our orbit, obviously. And here's my main concern. Flying. People who typically fly, anytime there's this kind of activity, it'll disrupt things in the atmosphere. So obviously it could lead to things like, layovers, complete cancellations at airports, to disrupting the instruments, and somebody who's flying a small plane. These are things that they track. I'm sure if you get into the details of the report, they would all out shut down all air traffic if it gets to the point it's so severe. So, obviously for the average commuter, the one that flies and, you're commuting back and forth, whether you're on a business trip or vacation, this is something you should pay attention to. That's why we do follow these reports. It's not like as if it's just so out there that these reports don't affect us. They do very much. Obviously, when you see an increase of earthquakes, we've noticed just by tracking it, BP Earthwatch is one of the people we've been following too. It's usually common when there's an earth-facing CME that alert is even more important because of the same reasons I just laid out. Air traffic, if you're commuting, flying, things like that, to electronic media, things that we use every day, the things we rely on. And then there's a second one that I wanted to cover, and a lot of people probably don't go too far with this, but I just caught on to this and I thought it was important. I might want to add this to the report, is that, when astronauts go in space, there's a certain O2 level. They have to have a certain air pressure, or they literally go insane. They call it lunatic for a reason, because of the effect that the moon has on a human being, especially in outer space and space weather. So this applies to that. So why do I bring that up? Because this affects people. This obviously affects their mood, their behavior, their attitude, and God knows, these are things that I just put it out there because obviously not for the fact of tracking people's behavior, but you're going to notice. You might have physical pain you never had before, because the more pressure that this has on the earth, people like us down here, going about our everyday lives, will question, like, why do I feel this enormous pain? It really, now I'm not saying that's the answer to everything, but I'm just saying these are things that, when we look at these reports, these are the things I think, what could happen to me, you, somebody flying, or in this case, like somebody with arthritis. Does it flare up more? We might not connect it to that, but obviously, these are the reasons we kind of like think about these things in advance. It's like, no, it's not. I'm not having another horrible case of arthritis. It could be the space weather. I know that sounds a little far-fetched, but if you really pin it down to all the data and information, and how the space weather affects our weather, and how that pressure is changing the way the air we breathe, the air quality, it makes sense. And if I lay it out that way, it helps by reporting it correctly. But there's obviously reasons why we report it. We don't report it just to upset anybody. We just want to know in advance by tracking it. Obviously, the areas that are, really been the main concern of the Ring of Fire. Now you're hearing activity in the Cascadia Plate. These are things that obviously, if you're following this over a period of time, you're going to watch these ones. Why is the Cascadia Plate moving? That would be the Ferndale, California. That was a couple days ago, right about the same day of the Oklahoma earthquake, and that was September 3rd, I believe, 2016. So obviously when you start seeing a ramp up, and there was one report, in the 24-hour period, there was 52 earthquakes. So obviously the activity has definitely increased. I mean, doubled in a very short period. Like, we're talking not even in a period of a couple months. So these are reasons why we follow it, not to upset anybody, not to freak anybody out, but you should have a game plan. If you're in an area, especially that the alerts are higher, like the New Madrid fault, if I was in that region, I would be like making sure I have a strategic plan. But listen, thankfully, if we can track these 2-day reports, it gives you a 48-hour window of time in the case of an earthquake. If you're in an area that's more prone to a massive earthquake, you might want to follow that 48-hour report. So I would suggest just follow BP Earthwatch. He's the one that usually has the alerts up, the 48-hour alert. When you see it posted that there's a solar storm or CME activity alert, that's usually your indicator that if you live in that area or region that would be prone to earthquakes, follow those reports. I would also follow it up with Thor News. They're usually on the same page for the most part. But I'm going to sign off here for the field report. God bless you guys, and have a great day.